Welcome to the Positively No Gambling podcast, a pro football show that is definitely not about betting. My name is Glenn Fraser. It is Thursday, September 18th. These are the Week 3 NFL picks against the spread. Okay, to recap, Week 2 was insane, 13 and 3 overall against the spread, 4 and 1 in the best bets, what I'm now calling the Fraser 5 to rip off Mike Francesa. So the only loss last week against the spread was Miami versus New England, which I knew was a risky one. We're done betting Miami for a bit. Beyond that, just scorching hot. 22 and 10 overall, 7 and 3 in best bets. These are ridiculous numbers. They won't stay this way, but it's a great start to the year. All right, let's dive right in. Thursday night football, Miami at Buffalo. Couple things to note here. Injuries on the Dolphins secondary, which is already a very bad unit. Bills have a few injuries of their own. Ed Oliver out, Matt Milano out. Don't think it matters. Huge number. I'm going to make this a best bet, though. Buffalo minus the 12.5. I think division, it's tough. Big number to cover. Backdoor potential, etc., etc. But I'm going to go with Buffalo. If there's ever a time to back a big favorite at home, it is the Bills this week. Green Bay, Cleveland, interesting one. Obviously, on paper, this should be a blowout, but Cleveland's got some good metrics at home. 56% against the spread as a home dog. Packers not great as a road favorite. The road teams slightly cover this 7.5. It's a big number. It's a public team. There's backdoor potential. They could easily be up 14 and lose this and win this one by only 7 late. Reluctant, but I'm going to go with the Packers minus 7.5 on the road. Indy, Tennessee. Indy's obviously looked great, 2-0 and 2-0 against the spread. Tennessee, valiant efforts, but 0-2, not looking like they could really compete, even though there are some pluses with Cam Ward, the rookie Alamanar. Their pass rush has not looked great. Their offensive line has not looked great. Gonna reluctantly take Indy on the road here. The road favorites have been a nice play so far. I'll keep up with that trend. Really nothing that jumped out stat wise. Definitely potential for this to land on 3 only. Daniel Jones's first test on the road. Be interesting to see. I'm not going to make this a best bet, but I'll go Indy on the road. Cincy, Miami. This is the battle of the backups. Wentz versus Browning. Yeah, not a ton that can be said about this one. I do like the Bengals as a road dog. Over the past few seasons, that's been very profitable. Vikings as a home favorite has been the opposite. Road teams getting 3.5 are 53%. Like I said, 2 backups, some Vikings injuries to look out for. On defense, I'm going to just take the points here and go with Cincy plus 3.5. This next one, Pitt at New England. This is a spot I really like Pittsburgh in. They seem like they're going to struggle against good defenses and perform well against bad defenses. Rodgers looked great against the Jets and then not so great against Seattle. I would put New England definitely in the bad defense category. Christian Gonzalez will apparently he's practicing and he'll be questionable to return, but even with him, I mean, this defense really looks bad. They were lucky to win last week. Metrics that jump out: Steelers outside of the division cover the number on the road. Pats tend to not be great as a home dog over the past couple of seasons. And the road teams, when they give -1.5, are 61% over the past couple of seasons. Some obviously injuries on both sides to monitor, but I'm going to give out the Pitt as a best bet. Rams Phillies, love this game. Don't have a great read on it though. Obviously, Philly, the offense under the new coordinator is still getting their footing, I would say. And the Rams, even though I was kind of down on them going into the season, they've really looked strong, covered the spread in both games, won both games relatively easily. Um, if you watch both of them, you realize I'm going to go Rams +3.5. Nothing really jumping out. Two and 0 teams, 2 and 0 against the spread team. So something's got to give here. A not very confident Rams +3.5. Another one I'm not confident in at all. Jets at Tampa. Tampa laying 6.5. Tyrod Taylor starting. That's tough. Uh, Injuries on Tampa's O line, injuries on Tampa's D line. Jets bad against the spread on the road historically. Bucks decent but not great. The difference maker here is the 6.5. That's historically been a pretty good number. Taylor in for Fields, I don't think is a difference maker. There's injuries on both sides. I'm not confident about this one at all. I think the Jets 6.5. Another one that is very tough to handicap right now is Washington hosting Vegas. Daniels might not play, throws a big wrench into everything. I'm going to go Vegas, very reluctant, plus the 3.5. They are a decent team at covering as a road dog. And that 3.5 number is a decent one to take historically. This one I went back and forth on. Atlanta at Carolina. Love how Atlanta looked Sunday. I like how they looked against the Bucks. Carolina's a disaster. Bryce Young looked awful against Arizona, but they did end up covering that 6.5. This jumped up at 4.5. I liked Atlanta at 5.5. I'm gonna just take Carolina. It's a big number to cover. Not a lot of sample for Atlanta as a road favorite, but in the few games that they were road favorites, they're only 5-8 against the spread. The 5.5 at home is a decent one. Carolina might get shredded. Their O line might get shredded. Atlanta might actually have a pass rush. If they do, watch out for them. But I'm gonna take Carolina. Very reluctant. Another best bet, Jacksonville -1.5 at home against Houston. I just am not a fan of how Houston has looked. In Jacksonville, I think there's so much more potential there with this offense. They really, really blew that one against Cincy. They should have won that game. I'm thinking and I'm hoping return back home, familiar opponent. I think they cover the 1.5. Jags don't have great numbers as a home favorite, but you hope new regime, new culture, rely on the 1.5, which has been a great number. Historically, we'll take Jacksonville as a best bet, laying 1.5. Denver at the Chargers. Love this game. This is such a fun game. This might mean something later on if Kansas City does not take this division. Bo Nix looked a lot better Sunday, but the Chargers defense looks incredible. Herbert obviously is the talk of the NFL in a lot of ways. It's only 2.5 division. I couldn't really get there, so I'm just going to rely on the 2.5 number, which I love, and take Denver, but not with too much confidence. New Orleans and Seattle. This one on paper looks simple. New Orleans just so limited by this roster. Seattle's defense looks fantastic. They're home, but I'm actually going to go with New Orleans plus 7.5. They tend to cover as a road dog. That 7.5 is a key number. This is another one that could easily land on 7, and you get the benefit of the hook. And New Orleans has definitely been feisty, but they're also 0-2 against the spread, so don't read too much into that narrative. But I do like New Orleans plus the 7.5. Dallas and Chicago. This is a very difficult one to handicap, given how bad Chicago looked Sunday, but they do return home. Story here is the secondary for Chicago, very banged up. Secondary for Dallas, very banged up. Could be a lot of points. Um, Eberflus coming back to Chicago is sort of a narrative. I'm taking the Bears. I probably should make this one a best bet, but I just cannot get there. I'll take Chicago minus the 1.5. Decent numbers outside of the division when they're home. Home teams at that 1.5 is a number that I like. Speaking of, love San Francisco in this one, even though Arizona's 2-0, looked a little bit shaky against some pretty weak opponents. San Francisco looked better than expected with Mac Jones. They've got McCaffrey looking good out there. Pearsall, Jennings. It's a San Francisco doing San Francisco things. Now, the Cardinals are a tremendous team at covering the spread as a road dog. I don't want to ignore that one, but the tipping point here is the 1.5 that San Francisco is giving. I think that they win this one and cover the 1.5. Final best bet. I like Kansas City a lot in New York against the Giants. Obviously, they need a get right game. They cannot start 0-3. That would be a disaster. The tipping point for me here is that number. That 6.5 is one that I love. I've been taking it last couple of weeks. It's paid off. We took it with Arizona. We took it with Buffalo. This to me is an Andy Reid game. This is just the gap in coaching is where Andy Reid is going to shine, and they are going to will a win out of this one. Cover the 6.5. It's a big number, but Giants are in over their heads against a team like the Chiefs. And finally, a very tough one to handicap, Detroit at Baltimore. Detroit looked fantastic last week, but this is Baltimore, the most talented team, the best team in football. Uh, the two numbers that jumped out to me were Lions' ability to cover numbers on the road as a dog and their ability to cover numbers on the road outside of the division. And the 4.5 being just a little bit too high. And I'm going to take Detroit plus 4.5, but reluctant there. All right, that's week 3. Hopefully, we keep this streak alive.